Hello, chess friends, and welcome to Jozarov Chess Channel, and welcome to the Tata Steel Masters tournament in 2020 in Wijk in Netherlands. So today I wanted to show you another great game from the round one. It is Jorden van Foreest against Yu Yangyi. Jorden van Foreest was that Dutch national master in chess at the age of only 17, so he is really I think a talented chess player. He still has some room for progress, and I'm really glad that he is participating in this tournament. He can maybe make some surprises. On the other hand, Yu Yangyi also had, I think, successful 2019, gained some reigning points. So this was really sort of the clash of this dark horses of this very nice tournament. And let's see what happened. So here, Jorden van Foreest played the move e4. We have c5, the Sicilian, and knight to f3, e6, the French variation of the Sicilian, and now Jorden van Foreest played the move c3 with the preparation to play the d4 move. And the best way to counterplay here is always to play the move d5 like Yu Yangyi played here, and after e takes d5 we have queen to d5 and now d4. If c takes d4 here, then of course you want to recapture with the knight or with the queen. You don't want to recapture with the pawn, because then you leave yourself sort of a strategical disadvantage. You have this isolated pawn, so you don't want to do that. So you would be forced basically to take out with the queen. But this game leads then into a simplified line. I think that's why here Yu Yangyi played a more aggressive way with the move knight to f6, and here Jorden van Foreest played a very interesting move, knight to h3, because if now c takes d4, you don't have to recapture immediately in the center. You have to move knight to b5 with the preparation to play the fork on c7, and then if of course knight to a6, still we can recapture with another knight, maybe knight from b to d4 or even queen to d4. Now this central square d4 is very well protected, and there are maybe even some threats with bishop f4 really occupying here this d6 weakness and also the c7 weakness. So that's why after knight to a3, again Yu Yangyi plays a normal line with knight to c6 and now bishop to e3. Here c takes d4 finally, but now again comes this move knight to b5 with the preparation to play the fork. So you cannot take something like d takes e3, because you get knight to c7 and it's game over for black. So that's why here queen to d7 was played, and now knight to d4. Again, with sort of a reloading system around the square of d4, we have bishop to d6 and now knight to c6 played by Jorden van Foreest. Very interesting idea, because you have to take b takes c6. If you take with the queen, then bishop to b5 is very dangerous, pinning the queen, and you have to take it now. After queen to d6, black will have troubles to castle here. After something like queen to d7, we have queen to a3, staying on this very important dark square diagonal, not allowing black to castle. After something like knight to d5, bishop to c5 is the idea. After b6, bishop to d6. I think this will be very annoying for black to proceed here. In the continuation, we could also try something like castling, queenside castling, and maybe even c4 is the possibility open to the d file. So I would rather be white here, because as I said, black has this castling problem. So that's why here b takes c6 was played, and now bishop to d4. So now Jorden van Foreest wants to occupy these weaknesses in black's position. The weak squares are here c5, e5. Maybe here there is a weak pawn on c6, but it's hard to attack this weakness. It's protectable, so the better way is to attack the weak squares in your opponent's position. Still, black doesn't have any space. Black doesn't have space at all, I think, because the pawns are still on the 6th rank. You would love to maybe improve the position of one particular pawn, maybe something like c5, e5, but so far it's not possible. That's why Jorden van Foreest plays a very nice positional idea to occupy this e5 square. Bishop to b7, now comes this move knight to e5, queen to e7, and now knight to c4, attacking the bishop. Bishop to c7, here you don't want to give up the bishop in an early stage of the game. It doesn't bring you anything. And now queen to b3, attacking the bishop. We have bishop to a6. Maybe here knight to d6 seems like a good move, but after bishop to d6, bishop takes a6. Still, I don't think that this is so dangerous for black. Now you can castle and improve the position of this pawn. c5. Here maybe rook to b8 is the possibility, attacking this b2 weakness. So still, I think black has some counterplay here. So after the move bishop to a6, here Jorden van Foreest played a very interesting move, queen to a3, simply forcing the trades of queens, because you want to, after something like, I don't know, queen to d7, I think you can go into a positional trades of pieces, because this bishop is the key defender of this d6, and after that I think you can play something like knight to d6, and this would be a lost game for black. So the d6 weakness is present, so that's why the best way here for Yu Yangyi was really to trade off the queens, simplify the position. After knight takes a3, we have bishop to f1, king takes f1, and now bishop to b6. Here Yu Yangyi tries to even more simplify the position, but now Jorden van Foreest plays a very interesting positional idea. He took simply out the knight. Bishop takes f6. After g takes f6, we have now a new position, a new pawn structure. This is a weakened pawn structure of blacks with many pawn islands. We have so far one. This is one pawn island. We have two. This is the second pawn island. 3, 4 pawn islands. On the other hand, white has only 2 pawn islands. So from an endgame perspective, this should be an advantage for white. Although nothing is lost so far, still you have to struggle for a win or for a draw here. But from a pawn structure point of view, I think white has this slightly advantage and can go into a favorable endgame here. So here king to e2 was played. We have rook to g8, not a problem. g3, improving the position of this pawn. So now we don't have any more the weaknesses. Queenside castling, and now knight to c4. Very interesting move, because this knight cannot be attacked anymore by any minor piece. It's very well placed here on the square c4, because it's on a light square, so you cannot attack it with the bishop here. King to c7 was played by Yu Yangyi, and of course you don't want to take, because it simply improves the position of your pawn structure. Here you don't have any more 4 pawn islands, you would have then 3 pawn islands, and this is, I think, a good position now for black, because in the next moves you can also try to attack the a2 weakness. But that's why a rook from a to d1 was played by Jorden van Foreest, simply competing on the d file. Here rook to d5 was played, also a very interesting idea, because again you don't want to capture this rook, because after c takes d5, it again improves the position of the pawn structure. Now again we would have then only 3 pawn islands, but the more important thing is that these pawns are centralized. They could create really an annoying pawn storm in the center, so that's why trading off the rooks is not such a good idea, at least not in this particular moment. It will happen in a couple of moves, but not in this particular moment. So here rook to d3, we have h5, rook from h to d1, and now rook from h to d8. So now we have a battle, really a battle on the d file. Knight to e3 was played, bishop takes e3, king to e3, and now rook to e5, king to f3. Now again rook to d5, and now Jorden van Foreest took out the rook, because there is one problem now in black's perspective. Here you have a weak pawn on h5, and you have also a weak pawn on a7. So these are the two weaknesses I think white can attack. So by simplifying the position after the trade of rooks, there are attacking possibilities for white. After c takes d5, we have rook to d4, and now it's a different position. Without these two rooks, now we have the opportunity to a little bit dance on this 4th rank with our rook and attack this main weaknesses. So both of these weaknesses you cannot protect. This is the main problem in black's position. Rook to b8 was played, not a problem. b3, here king to d6 was played, and now Jorden van Foreest plays a very cool endgame move, I think. First king to e3, because we have the weaknesses, of course, of this pawn on c3. We want to keep this pawn structure like this. Then we want to go king to d3 or king to e2, protecting this weakness, and now simply playing much more freely with our rook and attack these two weaknesses in black's position. f5 was played by Yu Yangyi. Maybe a better idea is to continue with e5, at least kicking with the rook. Then you have this opportunity to play something like, I don't know, maybe rook to b7, protecting. But again, this rook to h4 idea is very annoying, I think. And now rook to c7, you see again we have the possibility to play something like king to d2 after a5. If black takes, maybe we could further weaken the pawn structure with the move a4, but I simply don't like this endgame's position of blacks with the pawn down, still with the possibility to attack this weakness on f7, f6 and similar ideas. So here after the move king to d6, king to e3 as said was played, and now f5 we have rook to a4 attacking the pawn, here rook to a8, and now rook to h4, here rook to h8, and here I think Yu Yangyi hoped for a draw, because if white does this repetition, it's always protectable, this pawn on a7 and also this on h5, but now h3 with the idea to play the move g4, because we have created sort of a pin here. That's why king to e5 was played. We have king to d3, king to f6, and now again rook to a4, rook to a8, and now to b4. This is a very important move, because what we want to do is stay with this very annoying pin here by the rook and play something like b5, b6, and simply pass through, even if the position allows it, or take this b7 pawn. And this is basically a winning endgame already for white, because after king to e5 we can simply play rook to a6 like Jorden van Foreest did, and now after f4 not a problem, here g4 fixing the position, h takes g4, h takes g4, and now we have even the opportunity to push the pawn on f3 and simply play a very nice blockade on the king side here. So that's why f5 not a problem, g takes f5, king takes f5, and now comes this move a4. Now our idea is to play simply b5, b6, b7, even though it's possible. If you try rook to b8, you lose simply a pawn. You see here we have a very healthy pawn structure on the queen side, so this is a lost endgame here for black. But let's see what happened here. After a4 we have e5, b5, e4 not a problem. We have king to d4, very interesting idea by Jorden van Foreest, and now king to g4. We have e3, b3, pardon me. King to f3, and now rook takes a7. We have rook to b8, but now we have a5, and this pawn is protected. We have two connected pawn pawns on the queen side, and this is a lost endgame for black. So in the game, king to f2 was played, not a problem. We have king to rook to e7, waiting this pawn to roll. When it comes to the first rank, we'll simply take it out, and this rook cannot compete against these two connected pass pawns on the queen side, so this is a lost endgame. So f3, we have this very interesting move, b7, e3, not a problem, a6, simply pushing forward, e2, we have rook to e6, because you don't want to play something like a7 for instance, because you get rook to b7. If you take, then here black can promote the queen, so this is not a good line. That's why this intermediate move rook to e6 is very important here. Promotion to queen, not a problem, rook takes, and now we have the move a7, rook takes b7, and now Jorden van Foreest managed to promote the queen here, and it's a lost endgame for black. But let's see again the continuation. Rook to e7, we have queen to f8, we have rook to e4, king takes d5, rook to e3, not a problem, here queen to c5, king to d2, king to d4, here king to d3. You don't want to, of course, to go here because you lose the queen, so that's why here you have to go to the square e4. Here Yu Yangyi took the pawn, but it's again a lost endgame. You see why. This is now a position in which the rook is behind the king, so that's why queen to f2, we have king to c1, and now the king comes also into the attack. King to d4, we have rook to a3, we have king to d5, rook to d3, not a problem, king to c4. Now this king comes very actively into the game. We have even several checkmate threats. Rook to a3, we have queen to c5, rook to b2, queen to b4, king to a2, now queen to d2, creating this check, king to b1, not a problem again, king to b4, we have rook to a2, and now queen to d1. This is now even a forced checkmate in 12 because you have only one square. King to b2, and now the Jorden van Foreest took the pawn. Now we should create sort of a Zugzwang position. King to c1, queen to f1. The problem is how you should proceed here from black's perspective. You want to bring your rook in front of the king, but that's not possible because Jorden van Foreest played here an accurate endgame. King to c2, we have queen to e1, rook to b2, we have king to c4 going into a position. Now there are really some dangerous checks here. Rook to a2, queen to e2, now you have to go king to b1, and now queen to d1, king to b2, and now we have this Zugzwang position in which you have to go somewhere with your rook and you get checkmated, because let's for instance see the position after rook to a8. We have queen to d4, a very important move. If you try king to c1, then we have king to b3. You can try some checks, but we can simply hide, and now we can go with our queen here with the check. Again, if you try, we have this counter attack, and you don't have any more the checks. Now this would be a lost endgame. So for instance, you can go here king to a1, but now you get checkmated on b2. So this is the idea how to win this endgame, queen versus rook. I think it's also a very instructive one. Yu Yangyi gave up the position in move 75 in this position after Jorden van Foreest played this opposition, and this was, I think, a very important win for the Dutchman, because he is playing at home, sort of, so he wants to play very active chess in front of his public. He is a talented chess player. I think he can make many things happen here in this tournament. I wish him also all of the best. I wish also Yu Yangyi the best, but basically this was a deserved win, I think, for Jorden van Foreest. He played very actively from this opening endgames strategy, so this was, I think, a perfect win for the young fellows. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this game. Meanwhile, you can watch my other commented chess games from the series, and you can also watch my best chess games of all time if you want to see the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.